There is a silent paradox that few people dare to name. The more a woman grows internally, the more she develops her awareness, her sensitivity, her capacity to love and connect with what is deep and true, the more she becomes a target, not for men who deserve her, but for those who recognize in her something they have never been able to build within themselves. This is not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's not misfortune in relationships. It's a pattern. And Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers in 20th century psychology, left us with tools to understand exactly why this happens and what to do with that understanding. If you're watching this video, it's likely you've already experienced something like this. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. You know someone who seemed to see you in a way no one else did. Someone who talked about growth, about spirituality, about depth. Someone who made you feel finally found. And then, gradually or suddenly, you realized you were disappearing within that relationship, that your light was being used to illuminate someone else, and not the two of you. This roadmap won't give you a superficial list of behaviors to memorize. It will take you to a deeper place, the place where these patterns are truly born. Because only when you understand the mechanism from the inside will you finally stop being caught by it. Let's start at the beginning, and the beginning, always, is the shadow. Jung taught us that the human psyche is not made up only of what we see. It is composed of layers. The part we present to the world, the ego, is only the surface. Beneath it lies an immense universe of contents that have never been illuminated, desires that have been repressed, parts of ourselves that have been judged unacceptable and then buried alive in the unconscious. Jung called this the shadow, and the shadow does not disappear because it has been repressed. It survives, it acts, it influences choices, reactions, and above all, the people we attract to ourselves. The narcissist is, in essence, someone dominated by their shadow, a person who, very early in life, learned that their true self was unacceptable, that to survive, they needed to construct a persona, a mask of grandiosity, superiority, and self-sufficiency. Beneath this mask lies a void, a deep wound of abandonment and shame that was never processed, never looked at, never integrated. And since this void can never be filled from within, the narcissist seeks to fill it from without, through other people, through the light they lack. And this is where the spiritually strong woman enters the scene, not as a passive victim, but as someone who carries precisely what he lacks, and who, for reasons we will explore now, does not yet fully recognize the value of what she carries. The first hidden sign is empathy as an entry point. Women who have developed a high degree of emotional awareness possess an extraordinary ability. They can sense what lies beneath the words. They can perceive the pain behind the anger, the fear behind the coldness, the need behind the arrogance. This ability is a gift that, when not accompanied by discernment, becomes the perfect gateway for the narcissist. He appears with his history of suffering, with his old wounds, with the air of someone who has never truly been understood. And you feel it. You feel the pain behind the performance. And something in you believes that if you love enough, if you are patient enough, if you are present in a way that no one else has been, you will help him heal. Jung would call this the activation of the great mother archetype within you, the part of you that nurtures, cares for, and sustains. But the great mother archetype, when activated unconsciously, can lead you to take responsibility for healing someone who doesn't want to be healed. Someone who uses your empathy not as a bridge to transformation, but as fuel for their own emotional survival. The question you need to ask yourself isn't, can I feel his pain? The question is, or is he doing anything with this pain, or is he using the pain to trap me? The second hidden sign is the ability to see potential where there is no form yet. You don't love people for who they are now. You love who they can be. You see the diamond within the rock. And that is, in essence, a profoundly spiritual quality. the ability to perceive the totality of a person before they perceive it themselves. The problem is that the narcissist quickly learns to use this against you. He always presents himself as someone who is growing, as someone in process, as someone who just needs time, understanding, and the right person by his side. He feeds your vision of potential with vague promises, calculated gestures, and moments of apparent emotional openness that make you believe the diamond is about to emerge. And you stay. And because you don't want to abandon someone mid-process, because you genuinely believe in them, and because a part of you fears that if you leave, you'll be responsible for them not having flourished. Jung would tell us that this is projection, not his projection, but yours. You are projecting onto him your own journey of growth, your own capacity for transformation, and you confuse projection with his reality. The potential you see is real, but it is your potential, not his. Because for the narcissist, growing would mean dismantling the mask he built to survive. And that is the last thing he is willing to do. The third hidden sign is spirituality as a blind spot. Spiritually developed women tend to have a worldview that includes compassion, forgiveness, non-judgment, and the understanding that every person carries a wound. This vision is beautiful, it is mature, it is necessary for the world, but the narcissist learns to use it as a trap. He speaks your language. He uses words like purpose, soul connection, energy, and awakening. He mentions books you've read. He agrees with your beliefs. He mirrors your spirituality in a way that makes you feel like you finally found someone who vibrates on the same frequency. And when he does something that hurts you, your own spirituality works against you, because you were taught to forgive, to not judge, to understand that people act from their wounds, to seek peace, and so you forgive what you shouldn't forgive. You explain what has no explanation. You use your spiritual depth to justify the behavior of someone who is using that depth as a tool for manipulation. Jung would warn us about what he called ego inflation disguised as spirituality, or in another context, the danger of using spiritual concepts as a defense mechanism against painful reality. Forgiving does not mean accepting the unacceptable. Compassion does not mean the absence of limits. And recognizing someone's wound is not the same as letting that wound destroy you. The fourth hidden sign is the shadow of value itself. Here we arrive at one of the most delicate and important points in this entire conversation. Spiritually strong women often have a complex relationship with their own worth. On the outside, they seem confident. They help others, talk about self-knowledge, understand psychology, read, grow, and develop. But inside, at a level that perhaps they themselves cannot clearly see, there is a belief that has been buried in the shadow, the belief that love needs to be earned, that being loved unconditionally is something that still needs to be proven, that she is not enough simply by being who she is. This is not weakness. It's a very common wound, built up in childhood, when the love we received was conditional on performance, behavior, and how convenient we became to the adults around us. And this wound, if not integrated, creates an unconscious pattern, seeking relationships where love needs to be earned, because that's what love seems to be. That's what seems familiar. That's what the nervous system recognizes as real. The narcissist, either completely unconsciously or sometimes very deliberately, triggers exactly that wound. He gives and takes away. He values and devalues. He makes you feel special and then invisible. And this cycle keeps you in a constant state of searching, trying to recover the love you felt at the beginning, trying to be good enough, trying to understand what you did wrong. While you seek that approval, you don't realize you're feeding his emptiness, and that your own shadow, the hidden belief that you need to prove your worth, is what keeps you trapped. The fifth hidden sign is the boundary between caring and dissolving. There is a huge difference between a woman who cares because it's who she is and a woman who cares because she's afraid of what happens when she stops caring. And many spiritually strong women live on that dangerous boundary without realizing it. They were shaped by family, culture, religion, life experiences to associate their worth with how useful they are, how present they are, how much they endure, how much they give. And when they enter a relationship with a narcissist, this programming is exploited to the fullest because he will never be satisfied, because his emptiness is bottomless. And the more you give, the more he demands. And the more you demand reciprocity, the more he makes you feel demanding, ungrateful, or controlling. Jung would speak of the necessity of the individuation process, the path by which we become who we truly are, not who we learn to be in order to survive. And individuation demands, above all, that we learn to exist beyond the projections of others, that we stop constructing our identity based on the gaze of others, that we become capable of saying "I am" before saying "I serve." For the spiritually strong woman, the boundary between caring and dissolving only becomes clear when she stops asking, "What does he need?" and starts asking, "What do I need? What do I feel? What do I want? What is true for me?" The sixth hidden sign is the light that the narcissist cannot stand and cannot stop wanting. This is perhaps the most paradoxical sign of all. The narcissist senses, at some deep and unconscious level, the presence of something in you that he never had. Authenticity. You truly feel things. You allow yourself to be vulnerable, even if afraid. You seek to grow. You have a real relationship with your own inner self. This is what Jung would call a connection with the self, the deepest and truest part of the psyche, which lies beyond the ego and the persona. The narcissist lacks this connection. He lost access to his self very early on. And when he meets you, he sees in that light something that simultaneously fascinates and threatens him. He wants to possess it. He wants to be illuminated by it. He wants the people around him to see that light and associate it with him. But at the same time, he cannot bear that you are more whole than he is. So, gradually, he begins to work to extinguish that light, to make you doubt, to make you feel small, to make you need him. The tragic irony is that the light he tries to extinguish is precisely the reason he chose you. And when that light begins to fade, when you start to doubt yourself, to become silent, to shrink, he stops seeing you, because what he wanted was in the light, not in you, submissive and empty. And here we arrive at the heart of it all. Why do you stay? Why, even seeing the signs, even feeling the weight, even knowing rationally that something is wrong, does something within you resist leaving? Because the pattern is familiar, because the familiar seems safe, even when it's destructive, because the love you learned to recognize was conditional, intermittent, uncertain. And the right love, stable, consistent, peaceful, can seem suspicious. It can seem bland. It can seem like something is missing. Jung teaches us that consciousness is not a destination. It is a path. And the path begins right here, the moment you stop and look at yourself. Not to blame yourself, not to punish yourself for having stayed, but to honestly ask yourself, what parts of myself have I not yet integrated? What wounds have I not yet healed? Where am I still seeking in others what only I can give myself? Recognizing that you are a target is not a sign of weakness. It's the opposite. It's acknowledging that you have something extremely valuable within you, a depth, a capacity for love, an authenticity that the world needs, and that certain people will try to exploit for their own benefit because they themselves don't have access to it within themselves. The answer is not to harden yourself. It's not to close your heart. It's not to stop being who you are. The answer is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, of integrating the parts you haven't yet looked at, of healing the wounds that still make you seek approval where you shouldn't, of learning that your limits are not walls that isolate you. They are the boundaries that define where you end and where the other begins. A woman who goes through this process doesn't become less empathetic. She becomes wiser in how she exercises that empathy. She doesn't stop seeing the potential in others. She learns to distinguish the potential that truly exists from the potential she is projecting. She doesn't abandon her spirituality. She stops allowing her spirituality to be used as an instrument of manipulation. She remains a light, but she is learning to illuminate her own path first. The greatest act of spiritual strength a woman can perform is not enduring the unbearable in the name of love. It is having the courage to refuse to disappear. It is looking at her own reflection and saying, I am enough. I am real. I don't need to earn the right to be loved. It's recognizing that the most important relationship in your life isn't with him. It's with yourself, with your own self, and with the deepest and truest part of who you are, the part that survived everything, that grew despite everything, that continues to seek the light even when someone tried to convince it that it didn't deserve to shine. Jung said that even the sun has its shadows, and that only those who have the courage to look at their own shadow can truly live in the light. You've arrived here because something in these words resonated, because some part of you recognizes this pattern, whether in your own story or in the story of someone you love. And that recognition is already a start. The path back to yourself begins with an honest question and continues with the willingness to hear the answer. Not the answer he wants you to hear. Not the answer that keeps you small and convenient. The true answer. The one that lives deep inside you, waiting to be heard. If this video touched you, if it helped you see a pattern you hadn't yet named, or if it gave you words for something you felt but couldn't express, then I ask you one simple thing: subscribe to this channel, because this is just the beginning of a much deeper conversation. Here, every week, we dive together into the universe of Jungian analytical psychology, relationships, self-knowledge, and the process of becoming who you truly are. Click the bell so you don't miss any videos, and share it with someone you feel needs to hear this today, because sometimes the most loving thing we can do for someone is to show them a mirror. Until the next video,